Hello everybody, welcome to Nature's People. Well, today the topic is really interesting. We're going to talk about the science of heartbreak. Really interesting, ain't it? So today I'm going to refer more to the more physical aspect or the most scientific aspect of being heartbroken. So being heartbroken refers to the state of mind or the state of the mental experience after the person has lost a loved one. By loved one, I mean a partner that you shared emotions, you share feelings, you shared moments that stayed in our hearts. Why is it that we as human beings feel so much grievance whenever we experience a breakup? Why is it that breaking up affects us emotionally so profoundly that it seems like we've lost a loved one in terms of the person passing away or leaving this earth? I'm going to explain it right into this video. So, the science of breakup. Basically, what happens in the brain has all these regions. You have the prefrontal cortex, you have the parietal lobe, you have the temporal lobe, you have the occipital lobe, you have the cerebellum. You have all these regions that are constantly communicating and making sense of the world. So whenever we fall in love, there is this part of the brain called the limbic system. So what happens is that in the limbic system, your brain is encoding experiences and best partners that match your desires, both sexual, both spiritual, both behavioral characteristics, or rather say features that are really set and embodied in the way the brain foresees procreation and the passing of the genes on a longer run. So what happens is that the brain, it's calculating and it's seeing all these people, meeting all these people, and the person it matches with is that what we call a crush. So there's many regions on the brain that are responsible sort of to gauge and calculate or sort of adjust all the requirements to have the person, the opposite sex or person like us. So whenever the brain activates these parts, you'll have this person, you'll have the intent or the desire to pursue after this person. You'll do all the requirements to go after this person and acquire this person, or sort of win over her and have her in your life. In case that happens, which doesn't happen most times, but in case you're able to, all these parts of the brain are activated and you pursue and you achieve the person, what happens is that the brain activates these parts in the limbic system that are really evolved with emotion creation, with memories, with a projection of the future, as in the perpetuation of the species is concerned. So the brain is activated and saying like, all right, I found my partner, I found that person that I think that will match with my genes, will procreate my bloodline much better. So this is the person that I want to be with. So here's where the heartbreak comes. All these regions are very intrinsic and are very highly conserved by certain neurotransmitters. One of the neurotransmitters that's really involved with this aspect is called serotonin, and the other one is called oxytocin, and the third one is called dopamine. So dopamine is more of the reward system that gets activated in a region of the brain called the central tegmental area. So the central tegmental area, it's responsible for producing dopamine, regulating it and destroying it. So when you pursue and go after your partner and you finally achieve her, all this pursuit, the ups and downs, like when you send a text and the person takes 3 days to respond and you feel down. So it's the dopamine centers being rewired and being downgraded and upgraded just so you maintain the pursuit. You don't go too much after the person and you don't go too little. You just maintain that level that will just secure that person for you on a long run. So when you're pursuing a person, you go through that stage of regulation of dopamine. However, serotonin comes in place when you actually find to achieve or succeed to be with that person. When you succeed to be with that person, serotonin just wires all this part of the brain. So all these neuronal connections are activated, and you have all these networks that are programmed. And when you finally get into the stage wherein you physically get involved with this person, that's where oxytocin comes in. So when we have a physical interaction with a person, people don't really know this, but the brain has all these regions, these separate regions that are being light up and downgraded simultaneously, just to tell you that you have achieved, and this is the best moment and the most optimum moment for procreation and for the perpetuation of the genes. So because that happens, is that the brain conserves all these memories and makes sure it gauges or sort of conserves all these memories and has everything interconnected, so to make sure that the experience stays, and in case an encounter, physical encounter, sexual encounter with the person fails first time, you will be sure that you're unable to reactivate it or get access to it a second, third, fourth time until procreation is actually achieved. So here's where heartbreak happens. Whenever we break up for certain reasons, for any reasons, like people break up for mismatch, people break up for many reasons. There are many reasons, countless amount of reasons. So what happens is that the brain has put up a lot of energy and a lot of effort pruning in neurons and activating central parts of the brain, creating neuronal connections and building up a dopamine network, serotonin network, cutting out, pruning in connections, and then a lot of things are going on in the brain through the process of going after and actually joining someone. And then when a breakup happens, this is what what happens to the brain. So the brain is trying to make sense because it knows that it has invested a lot, and what it has to do the most is to try to procreate. And it's realizing that the genes are at risk of not being passed on, or that partner that would safeguard its prolonging in the world has left. So what the brain does, it gets confused. It goes on alert mode. It goes on a mode that is sort of terrified. It actually doesn't know what to do. fMRI scans show that a brain that does of a person that has been heartbroken in the first 48 hours, especially male brains, the neuronal activities of all these parts of the brain, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, all these regions, it's basically like the person has lost somebody. So they have all these regions that are responsible for grief, for fear, for sadness. They're not connecting well because the brain is trying to make sense of a solution to restore this moment, and it actually can't, because it's not a decision that is dependent on the brain. Now the brain doesn't have much it can do. It can do really during the pursuit, but past pursuit, the brain cannot do really much. What it does actually, it's literally gets confused. It starts firing. It's like, yeah, I guess you guys might have heard this term, a cytokine storm. So a cytokine storm means it's a salvage therapy. It's the last attempt to just recover things. So what happens is most times, like man mostly, when the gal leaves him, what he does desperate things. He goes after her. He does everything possible to recover her, because the brain is so much in stress and grief that it cannot really adjust and send signals to the prefrontal cortex, which is the frontal part of the brain that is it's responsible for reasoning, for judgment. And this happens because the brain, it's really shocked that it can't get the right connections of its different parts. So that's the science of heartbreak, guys, in a nutshell. There are more videos coming in. I will show my face in further videos. I'm just making sure my YouTube just gets ongoing, running, going. So stay tuned and share and subscribe. I hope you have liked the video. Nature's Pupil.